and welcome to yet another edition of our humble little podcast. Welcome, Steve McLeod.
Thank you, Bruce Palmer. It's a pleasure to have you here in the lovely hood of the Wollongabba.
You know it, and we've got a very special guest here that I've had a lot of respect for as a coach and didn't realize all of his journalistic acumen and accomplishments, and Brayden Heslehurst.
Good to be here, fellas. Honored to be here.
Oh, good on you, mate. Now, you don't mind, we always start off our show with shout-outs. And just any time you want to jump in. I'm starting, and my editor, Kyle, my son, was going to have to go back because we started, and now we've restarted. Start from here, Kyle. Brian Gorgie is going to be the head coach of the New York Knicks Summer League team in Las Vegas, of which, Brayden, you're going to be there.
Yeah, we'll be there for basketball.com.au, so looking forward to it and hopefully seeing Gorge there as well.
Yeah, that's...
and we were saying, right, like from a Gorge perspective, he's ticked off a lot of boxes, won NBL championships overseas, bronze medal, Olympic Games, rose gold. But this would be pretty close to his heart, huh?
Well, he's been there, like I said, 25 years. He's been going to the Summer League. Can I drop a name?
You're really good at it. You're the best.
Warren Legary. So Warren was a teammate of mine. He was a senior when I was a freshman at the University of the Pacific.
I knew that he was...
You know what? He was a really intelligent player.
Okay.
Got me the ball and got out of the way. Now, Steve, you have a shout-out on Mr. Kerry Williams.
Well, Kerry Williams, Cairns. I don't personally know Kerry, but I've watched his career from afar when he played, and he was a good player, and he's been doing good jobs on the coaching world. He's two things. He's going away with the team select team to play against the B League in the B League Invitational Tournament. Global. And he's also become assistant at the Adelaide team. I would have thought Kerry might have been a chance for the Cairns head job. You got any insights on that, Brad?
Yeah, so I'll build on the shout out to Luke Cann, another Brisbane guy going to Adelaide as an assistant with Kerry. But Kerry was initially favoured to get the job and interviewed twice for that job, and then surprisingly still didn't get it. I know a lot of people up there wanted him to get it, so a bit surprising, but good opportunity for him in Adelaide.
Well, I would have thought a lot of people across the country who know him and what he's contributed to basketball would have thought he was... Well, we had discussed it, you and I, Bruce.
Yeah, and there's huge benefit. He's been an assistant to Adam. He coached the under-20 team. I think he's tied up with one of our national under-9... No, he's not. But... when you have that, you start banking information on your opponents, the scouting, the personnel that's returning. Luke, Kerry, they both have that. It's valuable, information to have. Bringing guys over from the States who I don't know the competition, I don't know the personnel in it, that's more challenging.
So does that mean they've parted ways with a couple of assistants down Adelaide?
Yeah, so I think Michael Lake, who's previously from Brisbane, I think he's moved on. So I think they're keeping the Serbian first assistant. I think he's associate head coach with Mike Wells, and then Kerry and Luke underneath those guys. So bit of a loss for the Queensland clubs as well to lose those guys.
That's just, I'm happy for them, clearly, because there's only limited coaching roles that pay your mortgage. And you would have think Adelaide... there would have been other Adelaide people with equivalent experience, I would have thought. And again, but it happens in every team. Like you look at the Bullets, for example. Van Die's Townsend boy, which is good. It's pretty hard. Even, like I've questioned even Bullets recruitment of the guy coming from New Zealand. I tried to look as much information up I can on him, and I just think, is there not a Queensland kid who's equivalent to that guy? But we'll wait and see, because the Kiwis don't even have him in their top squad for their national team. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll wait and see. But just back on Cairns, Adam Ford, like I go on the Cairns website, not even a word of it, but it's all over the NBL website that Adam's coming back. What do you know?
Yeah, so, I know he left to explore other opportunities. Now, one thing I know is that Cairns have been sort of starved of resources under the community ownership model, and they're about to change to a private ownership. So I believe they'll have more resources and everything, so that probably enticed 40 back a little bit. Maybe there wasn't the amount of opportunities he thought that he was going to get outside of Cairns available. I know he coached the 3x3 team, but I believe a couple of those things really played a part.
So
Interesting, and I don't want to divert from this because I think I rate Adam Ford.
For sure.
You know, he had limited resource from the playing side of it. I mean, they had tryouts. That's how they got Kyle Adnam, right? He went on he went up and tried out.
And that new kid, Tisha.
Yeah, Alex Higgins-Tisha, even Dylan Stith as well was from that trials, and heard they were pretty rigorous too. You know, the old school 4-on-4 transition drill, touch the baseline.
Yeah.
I believe they did that for about an hour and a half, close to 2 hours. So, and it was an all day thing. So he pushed them to the brink.
Wow. Well, it's good that Adam's back. I figured there was a beard on that. I figured it was around trying to get to private ownership.
Do we know who the private ownership is?
I believe there was a guy who was reportedly interested from overseas about 5 or 6 years ago. I don't know his name or anything. I'm actually digging further into it, but I think he's the person sort of coming back and taking over. So it's good for him because it's needed. I don't think these days you can sort of be a community sort of model owned team. I think you need to be private, so it's good for them.
Yeah.
Well, you're always underfunded.
Yeah.
Always underfunded.
If you're community. What about the rumour about Paddy Mills being in some sort of ownership? Is that just people wishing?
I don't think it's wishing. I think he's might be on his way to play for Cairns.
Wow.
Initially, I heard it was no. I don't think there's a great relationship between him and the league, but I believe
there isn't.
No.
What have they done to Paddy?
I don't know what the details are there, but initially when I sussed it out about him going to Perth and everything, it was shut down. And then when I've sort of inquired about the Cairns stuff, it's not been a no. So that makes me think it's a possibility.
I mean, that's closer to his home and where he grew up, and he probably has some affiliation just, you know, organically for that part of the world. But whether he's got, I mean, but it's when you think about it, the amount of games of basketball that he's used to playing, or being involved in, this will be like a walk in the park.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to do a knee-jerk shout-out.
Yeah.
On the 3rd of June is it Eddie Mabo?
Eddie Mabo Day, yeah.
Of which Paddy is
He's related to him,
yeah.
Like directly.
Yeah, which big shout out, you know, to Mabo and all the good that he has done for our Indigenous brethren.
So that's my share. Just keep things nice and tight because we want to get into Braydney.
Well, we do, but we also wanted to have a chat about this B-League Global Invitational.
Yeah.
About the
interesting squad that they've named.
Yeah, it is, considering there's, you know, there'll be some players in there that the casual fan has never heard of before.
Well, like DJ's been away from the league. He's signed back, but
well, it seems like this is something that Southeast Melbourne Phoenix is
Simon
coach. Yeah. The only guy, sorry to jump in, the only guy that seemed to have, when he was coaching Phoenix, to go from being coached to losing that job and go into a higher position 9 months later, it's one of the most ironic things I've ever seen in the league.
Unusual.
Well, I have to admit, before we started this, we were talking about this, and I mean, I don't know Simon from a bar of soap, but you know, how does he get this coaching gig? Like, you know,
well, that's I'm going to put 2 and 2 together and say that they must have had a big part of coordinating this, which I think is a great idea.
The concept's great.
For sure.
And Japan basketball, it's a rarity. It happened in Korea, but Japan said when they merged the 2 leagues, right? And it got the name the B League, not the A League, not the C League.
I always get confused by that.
Where everyone had to have a stadium that sat no less than 6,000, Everybody went out and built stadiums or went out and hired stadiums. It's worked. And I tell you, for guys like Brock Modem, Nick Kay, guys like Andre Lamanis and Sean Dennis is killing it. Sean Dennis is a very good coach, by the way.
He's great.
I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago for a story, and
He's a champion.
It was like these guys obviously are very busy and they're in between off season. They want to relax and everything. He was so giving with his time, and it spoke to me as a coach. And that after the interview was done, and amazing.
Sean's just a great guy. I was fortunate to play against him, and then I was an assistant coach with Curly when he was coaching at Newcastle and
Townsville, Coach of the Year.
Yeah. He's a real stays in contact with the Australian community really well,
sure.
and he's just a
There's
he's
more
just
there.
a tip top bloke.
Michael Downer,
Great guy as
there
well.
in Japan, great coach too.
Yeah.
Kiwi fella, Paul Inaugural, he's been coaching over there for a long time.
That's right. So I mean, it's a great place to play. It's secure. you got great food, great transport. The only thing, unstable landmass.
Yeah, that's true.
Because if ever they had it on film,
Can we pivot?
well, now, can I just? That's the last time I sprinted. I was there when
okay.
that 9 earthquake hit,
Oh shit.
and everybody beat me out of the building.
And can we share then? You eventually got out of the building,
Yes.
and then you got back to your crib, and you were just like, your food was a bit of a concern, because you had to get it from shops that were open that weren't destroyed.
They were all picked clean. I lived right. I kept looking. Wow,
So-
man.
so-
There's no traffic lights, cops. Emergency. And I
So
keep
for your
looking.
mind, you just went, obviously the right thing to do now is play golf.
That was the next day. That's where I knew I could get food.
Yeah, and because there's no communication and he can't understand Japanese, there's like a nuclear cloud going over the whole region. So Bruce decides, not knowing, to go play golf.
I didn't have any idea that those nuclear
And so-
reactors blew.
All the other guys playing golf with him or on the course were in their 80s and 90s, so they didn't give a
didn't
shit. And here's Bruce out playing in front of a nuclear cloud. But anyway,
How'd you play?
I played well, but years down the road, I may have it may have caught up to me. Last shout out before we jump straight into Brayden. Al Westover and the Knox Raiders
we're not
mutually
happy
agreed.
about that, to be honest.
Well,
are
you're
we?
10-3.
How do you sack a coach who's 10-3?
Obviously, the players weren't happy. I noticed he's a friend. Al and I grew up together. We went to UOP. We were roommates together. He was really a smart player. Got me the ball and got out of my way. There's a gentleman there that I believe is behind this. His name Craig Simpson. We'll see who ends up coaching. I think whoever ends up in Al's place probably had something to do with Al's. I mean, you coached at a high level, mate. You have, Steve. You can't keep everybody happy.
No, not at all. And the main thing is to win, right?
Well, you would think so. And the cattle that they have is good. But they were coming in dribs and drabs, right? They just got a good ball player came in last week, and trying to integrate them into the rotation isn't easy.
And it's I've never seen it even at the NBA level where it's rife with some organisations. If it's player driven, it's just a circus. It's just a rotating another coach. But if the play, the Lakers have, obviously LeBron's had a big influence there.
Yeah.
But is that influence weakening? I'm not certain. But it's not great, especially in Australia. We just don't have, and we've had it happen several times.
Is that the same Craig Simpson that was at Adelaide a couple of years ago when CJ was there?
When
Bingo.
CJ's got wounded in the back,
Yeah.
he's a bad. But I'm not
No
accusing him.
insults. No insults.
No, we don't insult here.
Yeah, we're getting better.
Before we jump straight into Brayden Heslehurst, I want to go through your coaching first because it's elite. But we got to do our shout outs to our sponsors. Brian
Yep.
Curl Basketball, many programs that Brian has, the Taiwan tour, the indigenous camps, the Olympian camps, the academy. Thank you, Brian. Great basketball program. To Chris Weir from FIT Education, that's the RTO on the go when you're looking for, particularly in fitness and health, but they look after the academics of the kids in the academy. Thank you, Chris. And to Big Dog Sports, to Ryan Stolberg, great sponsor.
I saw Stolly's on fire this week. He's handing out a $500 check
To a Brisbane Grammar School kid battling for a spot in the 10As.
He won the 500. Nice.
I didn't get a bite, so that he's probably going to be a B player.
Yeah.
But thank you, Ryan Stolberg, and his silent partner, Benny Thompson. We will get you guys on, but hey, we have a severe shortage of courts.
Stolly wants to. He rang me this week, and look, we do. So we've probably got like 20, 30 people that are sort of, fitting their schedules, and people are adding to it all the time. But he wants to bring on a guy I toured with at a Bullets tour many years ago called Marcus Bell Chambers. So Marcus, we used to call him Outback. He is that character.
That name rings a bell.
Well, if you're going to have a podcast with Stolly, you probably need about 5 hours to let him talk as much as he'd want to.
Thank God we have an editor.
Night and time.
But anyway, Big Dog, thank you, Ryan Stolberg. Go get your courts from Big Dog Sports. Now we're sticking in to Brayden Heslehurst. Let me just, as part of this introduction, we're going to start on your coaching. Two-time NBL one, even though this was still QSL at the time because of COVID. That was the NBL one minus the northern teams.
Yeah.
It was the strongest competition we had to offer. Won the inaugural NBL 1 championship in 21, won it in 20 when we were abbreviated through COVID. Three-time medal winner representing Queensland? Or two-time. Silver in 25 as the assistant for the... you were the head coach.
Head coach, this
head
year.
coach of our Queensland women, that's huge. Assistant coach under 18 South team. At the national championships, finished bronze.
Yep.
Finished third and invited to Basketball Queensland and that would just happen, didn't it?
Yeah, just this week went down to the Oz Coaches Conference in Canberra, which was good. Yeah.
I just got to think.
Were you on the floor
No, just watching people present as part of the BQ crew. So I saw Gorge there actually with Bogues. They were the two only NBL guys there, which was good to see.
I got a thing from Pete.
Lonergan.
That's it.
Yep.
I was about to say his name, but I had an eyelash.
Yeah.
Pete Lonergan just sent us the raw footage.
Yeah.
And asked me I already shared it. Then I read it. Please don't share this yet. But it's only our little cohort of coaches. Then you have been the director of coach. This is going back now to 17 and 18 at the Sunshine Coast Phoenix.
Yep.
Do they still exist?
Yeah, they're still up there. Yep.
Okay, that's a guy.
So is that
doesn't
the one that Sean's running? Is that
Sean Page? Yeah. So
which is the one that
sort of
will
grew
be
up.
back? That's
I grew
Rip
up with
City.
Sean.
USC Rip City.
Yeah.
So I was a Bundy boy.
Okay.
And and so in our days, it wasn't like Bundaberg and Sunshine Coast. It was Wide Bay versus Southeast Queensland versus Farnborough.
Yeah, gotcha.
And so Lyndon and myself, and then we'd go stay at Sean's, the Pages. We'll stay under the stadium, and because that was Wide Bay.
Yep.
Yeah, so I've known Sean a long time.
Are you a South Australian?
So I'm actually born in Maxwell in country New South Wales.
Okay.
Moved up here very young, and then moved to Adelaide for 8 years and then came back.
Okay.
So
that's your association with Sturt.
Yeah, so I played there under 12s to under 16s down there, which was good.
That's Phil Smythe's club.
Yep.
And his older brother, God damn it. Got to do my research. I don't remember his older brother's name. And right now, you're the things that we're doing.
You've hit record.
Yeah, the things that we're doing. Assist. Tell us about Assist Athletic Services.
Yeah, so it started by Michaela Can, who I was lucky enough to coach for 6 seasons at Logan, and started in 2021, and it's sort of focused on, yes, we coach basketball and do individual and group skill sessions and all that, but it's more focused on the mentoring side and the ability to teach sort of the mental tools for young athletes going through to deal with things from anxiety, from different performance issues and stuff like that. So it's basically from her journey. She went to the AIS and then played in the WNBL.
Right.
It's basically focused on the stuff that she wasn't taught during that sort of journey that she had to learn later in life.
How do you teach this? How do you...
Well, I suppose it's dependent on the individual and stuff like that. So, you know, I deal with a lot, you know, of shooting stuff. So I'll talk to, you know, kids about, you know, that, for example, we get out and we do shooting and they're great shooting on the floor, which you guys would both have experience with, and then they get out and then they get nervous, or, you know, they're not confident to shoot it, or, you know, they have one bad game and they put the shot away the next game, and just basically things to deal with, and not thinking about the negatives, and being able to sort of learn from those experiences. But yeah, it can be anything from, you know, a lot of people, juniors these days, suffer with anxiety and stuff. So she does a lot of mentoring to be able to teach them how to deal with those sorts of things.
And you do this at the Logan area or South East Queensland? Or?
Yeah, so we do it. Obviously, a lot of focus is on Logan because, you know, we have the courts out there, and that's where she lives and plays now and everything. But we've just started doing some shooting programs out of Basketball HQ, which with Dwight Hicks and
Dwight Hicks
and Troy Hines. So I do a shooting program out there every Wednesday afternoon. So we're looking to sort of build it up across more of a area across the southeast Queensland rather than just Logan.
Great. That's great. That's a great service
so
for
you
basketball.
do it as an individual or small groups as well?
So Wednesday afternoon, I do an elite session at 4 o'clock. So it's sort of NBL 1 state players. And then I have a foundation session at 5, which is more sort of under 14s, under 12 sort of level, and teaching those things come through. Because as we know, shooting's not really taught these days, and it's probably a skill we're a bit deficient in Queensland. So, yeah.
It's great at the academy because I do the Monday sessions and they're all skill sessions. And you can measure, we do a lot of testing, right, to see where they're at. Both the Nash dribbling test, we have the Alford shooting, we have a bunch of different shooting tests. We try to do 2 different ones each term. But it's good to have that feedback. And I know that with the equipment that Almighty Dwighty, you would have gun, or does he have Dr. Dish?
Yeah, so they have plenty of stations with which goes basically from the 3-point line down with the Dr. Dishes and the shooting machines. I think there's 5,
right,
and then 2 half-court areas, and I've got 1 half-court, which is really good because I get the guards on 1 ring, and then I do shooting with 2 bigs on the sort of ring to the side,
right,
as well. So plenty of facilities there for sure.
Yeah, repetitions. You know, you got to get it. There's a lot here.
Do we steal one of your comments about shooting? When you play a beautiful game, if you can't shoot, what should you do? If you can't shoot,
play soccer.
Exactly. That's my theory too, mate. That's my theory too.
So we had trials. I'm doing the 10As at Grammar.
Yep.
Going to be some great lawyers, engineers, doctors. And I kept telling you can't shoot, mate. Fencing.
Yeah.
Go play soccer. And 3 of them said, we do play soccer.
Yeah.
Hockey,
rowing. Either way, I don't think that was a great thing that Kayla would probably say that's probably not good for your self-esteem, Bruce. But you played at a pretty. You went over and did you play in the United States?
No. I did a USA tour with Spartans. Rob Schreibner was my coach on that tour.
Talk about insults.
Yeah, let's just say that tour was very entertaining. With Rob.
So Shibes, oh my goodness, that you would have got a whole year life worth of insults that you could carry in your back pocket.
Absolutely.
More on the coaching. You assisted C.J. Bruton when he was the head coach of the Spartans.
Yep.
Boy, that's going back into 2016.
Yeah, 2015 and 16. So I was head coach of the SBL, I think it was back then, which is your QSL now.
Yeah.
And then CJ's assistant for Siebel.
Right.
Nice. So, mate, tell me, like Bruce and I talk about this all the time, about we love the game.
Yep.
Obviously, you've got 2 passions. You love basketball and your journalist skills as well. We had Tiana on here the other day, and I have to, you know, congratulate you. The article you wrote on her
fantastic.
was just
Thanks, fellas. Appreciate it.
And I mean, she's an A-grade person. We really enjoyed having her on. But the combination of the both, is that just like a perfect world for you, that you've got this right mix?
Yeah. So I've loved basketball ever since I can remember. I moved up here pretty early from New South Wales, and was actually my mates, and they get sick of me telling me this story, but I was mascot for the Spartans ABA team in the late 90s, which was Lloydie, Mark Dalton, Jason Brattel, Jumpin' Joe Hurst, all those guys, which was a pretty good start to be around those type of people. So loved it ever since I can remember. And then I think it was probably year 9 or something. I was in the country in South Australia and just got asked to write a feature story about something, and I think it was about a rule change in the NRL, which wasn't really well received in South Australia, considering they don't know much about the NRL, and just loved it. And ever since then, I wanted to be a journalist, and lucky enough, a couple of months ago, I was able to get this job at basketball.com.au, and even when I was at News Corp, we sort of helped start the live streaming that News Corp does now of basketball around the state. I remember we did a lot of rugby league, and I suggested to the bosses that, we should stream basketball. And they said, didn't believe there was much of a market for subscribers and stuff like that, and convinced them to give it a go. And it was here in Queensland where it started, all over the country now, and the numbers were insane.
And the data's good from that?
Yeah. So I think they started doing all sports, hockey, water polo, netball, AFL and everything, and it was only second to rugby league, the amount of subscribers we got. We had state championship tournaments where we'd have 120 subscribers across the tournament, which is great, but it was getting 5,000-6,000 views per day, and that's the junior tournament. So it was really successful, and I've been really lucky that it's both of my passions have merged, and it's taken me different places and going to take me more places this year, which is really exciting, and just love doing both.
So who's your boss?
My boss now is Anthony Allsop. So he's been involved with NBA Australia and done different things across AFL world as well. And but I got into this through another guy who works with us, Peter Brown, who used to be at News Corp as well, and through a mutual friend, and had moved on from News Corp at the end of last year. And this came up, and we're just sort of focused on Aussies everywhere. Aussie basketball is everywhere, all over the world, and
there's so much to. I mean, I love it because there's so much stuff coming through the social feeds that keeping us up to date with these kids in our era. To go to college in the States was unheard of. Like now, it's so possible.
Yeah.
And now with the nil money, it's another world altogether. We had Tommy Lloyd on here.
Yep.
And he told us gave us a bit more of an insight. Like it started as nil, but it's now more like a salary cap, and the athletic director at each of the colleges determines where the money gets spent, but just another world. Isn't that like where Henschel's going to end up at Florida with, on big money, is we've got some inside word. It's decent money.
I know exactly what he's doing. I've been sworn to secrecy, but hopefully should be. I would love to.
This won't drop for a month.
I would love to say it, but we won't know. I think until another week or so. But
I just want to sing the praises. Basketball.com.au. You cover all aspects.
Yeah.
Of all of our players, juniors, college, Europe, Japan, NBL, NBA, China, WNBL.
It's great.
It's fantastic, mate. I mean, it's a huge service for all of us that love basketball. Now, can we move on to the radio?
Yep.
Is there a connection with basketball.com and SEN?
No, not really. So I was looking to I did SEN. SEN produced the broadcast for the WNBL when it was the COVID hub up in North Queensland.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And I was fortunate enough to be a sideline commentator for KO. And obviously had been wanting to move on from the print journalism that I was at with News Corp, and stayed in touch with them, and was fortunate enough to get a producing role, doing a morning show, and which turned into commentating for the Bullets and doing a lot of basketball stuff with them.
Right. So is that on for the 26th season?
So we'll broadcast all Bullets games, when the season comes around, and hopefully have a show that I can sort of cross-promote basketball.com.au as well. But SEN does, I think, broadcast of every team in each state. I think Sydney, Adelaide, Tassie especially does all the radio broadcasts. So they're definitely a big supporter of basketball as well.
I have a dream one day that you and I get to just do a live commentator of game, a bit like Statler and Waldorf, Roy and HG type.
That'd be interesting.
Commentary. But anyway, I'll just keep dreaming.
Do that. Mate, do you still aspire to coach? Or I know you're taking a team to the state. Is that with Jordan Mullins?
Yeah, so that's with Oz Hoops. So looking forward to that. Obviously, have the time now that I'm not doing NBL 1 North
Are you going
this
to be
year.
able to practice? Are you going to get a chance to organize do you know who you are? Are you coaching men or women?
Coaching boys.
Okay.
So we had a selection camp about a month and a half ago, and then I think we get 4 days to train when we get over there.
Right.
So not much time with them, but it'll be a good experience. Looking forward to it. But yeah, still.
So what age group is this?
I think I've got 17s.
Yeah,
I think that's what it was. So.
We had a lad just come back from Brian's academy, from Brian Curl Basketball Academy, and he got a scholarship offer to the same school that Kai Van Beest was at.
Yep.
It's in Tennessee. It's got a religious connotation. I don't know if it's an Adventist, Methodist. Either way, he got a gig, and he's a good solid.
Again, your research is just outstanding.
No, it's not research; it's recall.
Okay, I believe you.
Okay, recall. The difference. There's a difference.
Good on. I mean, these kids love the game.
Yeah.
And they get a chance to be coached by you, and we know that Nikki Bairstow is going on that tour as well. But I wasn't in a. We were sitting in a. Can I drop a name? Southern Districts v. Wizards game. We were in a box and we shared it with Nikki, and she told us this, and I never thought, I didn't want to take her concentration away. Do you get a chance to organize your team? So you had a part of the selection. Now, do you guys going to have a practice before you start playing any of these games?
Yeah, so I think we get 3 or 4 days when we get over there, which is just practice, and then you jump straight into the tournaments.
How many in your squad?
I think we've got 10. So
Okay.
10 each. Oh no, I think they've gone down to 9 because obviously we did tournaments and that, and being a tour where people pay money to come over, you want to make sure people hit the court and everything.
Is it okay to share? What are they dropping money to go on these tours?
I have no idea these days. I know it's gone
Can't
up.
be cheap.
No. Well, my 2010 tour with Spartans, I think was about $3,500.
Yeah.
Now I think it's more than double that, and we were over there for 3
I was about to
weeks.
say it's going to cost them 8 or 10 grand.
Yeah, for
surely.
sure.
By the time they spend money and
You would think so.
yeah.
Can you guess where we went over with Shives' tour as well? Where we went to?
I have no idea.
Seattle, Washington.
Right.
Of course.
Yeah, his
The
hometown.
whole Shive clan was there.
Right. Then there would have been a host of insults and tomfoolery. How many games do these kids play in these tournaments per day? Do they play multiple games a day?
Yeah, I think sometimes it can get up to three games a day from what I heard. I haven't done it before, but I think, 2 at least. And I think you can get up to 3 because I think you're obviously trying to squeeze in as much. And then I think we do 2 tournaments in different places. So, yeah, be interesting.
How many games do you think these kids under your care will be playing?
I think you'd probably get in 8 games
Okay.
for the tournament, I think.
And
Somewhere in
do
that
you
range.
know, are there going to be colleges and, D1, D2, NAIA? Do they coaches come and attend
Yeah,
these?
I would assume so, especially being summer and AAU tournaments. I would assume there'd be a fair few college coaches there. There always is. Even here, like the national championships down in Ballarat, there was college coaches everywhere. There probably wasn't as many at the under 18s as I thought. That was here at the start of April, but they're all over the place at the moment. So I assume we'd have
So
a fair
that
bit.
whole window, it kind of goes with nil and the portal. They used to have these little windows.
Yeah.
And you probably, when you went with Shive, that was probably back when they could bring teams out and play practice games and actually pay the tour coordinator. Because Kenny Cole organized one of those when I was with the Giants. Big checks. I saw one. We played LSU, $50,000.
Yeah, wow.
It went straight into his skyrocket. And I
Nice.
mean, Hawaii, it was a great tour.
Yeah.
You know, and then Shaq. So I have Pat Reedy guarding Shaquille O'Neal. You couldn't see Pat Reedy. He eclipsed Pat Reedy, dunked everything. But they also had Abdul Rauf.
Yep.
I don't know if he's in a Hall of Fame or not. I didn't do my research because, again, I just popped his name in. But there was another they're huge.
Yeah.
And Dale Brown was the coach. He was so kind and so nice. Gave me all the time. I got a lot of good stuff on zone attack from Dale Brown. Then the next night, so they thumped us like the proverbial rented mule, but we played Southern University, which is in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
And the year before, they were the leading scoring team in men's basketball, and we thumped them. We got them. It helped our confidence.
Yeah, I bet.
Our self-esteem went up a fair bit. But those tours were great, and I don't know what's happening now. We should have asked Tommy Lloyd, what happens with tours.
Yeah, I just think there's just so much for them to fit in now. They play that pre-tournament in Hawaii, and just getting
crazy
to deal with the portal, and Baylor had no players at the end of this year. That's insane. That's never hurt. Like a freshman, unless you're a stud, you're not going to get on these teams at the moment. So it's certainly changed. The one thing, you're around juniors and you're around people aspiring to be better. And I try to be truthful with people. They honestly think, some people think I'm going to make the NBA.
Yeah.
Like this beautiful game that we love, even more than when we grew up, is providing opportunities to see the world, to get a university degree, to do things that some people just, to go over, like you're about to go on this tours. They're amazing. I've been fortunate I went to high school in the States. I mean, I'm unheard of in my era. I just think we need to also make sure that the parents of these kids that we are pumping up, there needs to be a realistic element into this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, it kind of ties into something you guys were talking to Beck about the amount of divisions in rep basketball these days. And my theory with unrealistic expectations from parents these days is they never have the disappointment these days of not making teams. Everyone gets a jersey in rep. There's 7, 8 divisions.
Everyone wins a prize, gets a trophy.
Yeah, so everyone thinks they're good enough, whereas rep used to be, I think, 2 teams, especially when I was growing up. So if you weren't good enough, you played club and you knew you weren't good enough. Whereas now there's so many teams, it's just like, how do you manage that?
I don't know, it wasn't my world, but we also didn't really walk around with our rep stuff on. That was a bit embarrassing, to be honest. You just didn't do it.
Yeah.
Because you'd get beat up by an older kid and say, what the fuck are you wearing that thing for? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. We are making an absolute effort to stop Steve swearing. So I apologise. But I agree with that. I mean,
Here's the thing that I had. I was down at Knox in 2010 before I went to Japan.
Yep.
And they had a thing where the NITCP program, which is, I don't know if it still has that alphabet soup name. What do we call it here? SPP or
Yeah,
NPP?
SPP and NPP, yeah.
Okay. Every association had that. And you paid to be in it. It wasn't based on, elite performance or promise. And I was telling the director of coaching at the time, you're creating a problem for me because this kid isn't even in the D's.
Yeah.
But that wants to be a player. They pay for it. And then when it came time to select our rep team, we had 54 rep teams. Why is she a C? She's in the NITCP.
Yeah.
Vegetable soup program. It's like, well, mate, because you paid to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, it was another thing that happened with the Caps this year, and I'm not in that role for 2 years. I was kind of the, what was the title? Well, I know this. Everybody thought I was their team manager. So that took about a month to get everybody. I'm not your gopher, right? But the cost of playing QSL or youth for us. We only have one. We don't have QSL 1 and 2.
Yeah.
It went up almost 100% in fees. Now, it's got to be the first part of your selection criteria.
Yeah.
Can you afford this?
Yeah.
And I imagine the NPP and SPP is a user pays thing.
I believe so.
I would have to think so.
Yeah.
You can't get the level of coaching
And
facilities. You'd have to think there's
Yeah.
a fee involved.
I'm okay with all of that as long as their expectation is explained to the parents. If they want to drop $500 on their kids or $1,000 or $10,000, go, no problem, because they're getting a life experience. That's what we need to sell. It's not you're going to play in the NBA.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
you're freaking well not going to be in the NBA. I mean, can someone make it? Absolutely. But the odds you've got a better chance of probably being an astronaut.
Yeah.
But it happens. We've got Paddy Mills out of Thursday Island. Like that odds would be as high as that's possible ever to play in the NBA, and then have 15 years in the NBA.
Yeah.
But he's a freak, right? I just guess I'm trying to share the message that I just want people to enjoy the game, be as good as you can, play it at high level that you can, but enjoy it. And I think if you enjoy the game and don't have this expectation that I have to make rep and I have to make, there's teams out there you can play in, like NBL 1, and there's QSL, there's QSL Youth. They're all really good competitions.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, will time allow you, Brayden, to get? Do you have any desire to be back coaching?
Yeah, I do. I didn't finish. It wasn't my choice to finish up at the end of last season. So, I love the game.
And last year was Logan, NBL 1.
Yeah,
Who's
so
got them instead of you?
Aja Paramamar has them this year. It was, I won't lie about it, it was disappointing considering the success we had there over 6 seasons.
So who made that decision?
It was board and management decided to go in a different direction. Like I said, it was really disappointing and stuff like that, considering not only the success we had, but we had built a culture there. Even when we won, 8 or 9 of our 12 players had played juniors at Logan and all that sort of stuff. We weren't, a high budget team. I was doing work with the juniors each off season, coaching under 16s or under 18s or assistant coaching someone. So we'd built up a really good program and, disappointed not to see that, especially last season. I think the way it finished, we had a bit of change in our team last year, where Michaela Roof, who's now at Brisbane, and Caddy is now there. They went, Caddy got the job at Seahawks, and so she had left after 5 years, and we still had a core there, but we welcomed in some young players, some 16-year-olds who ended up starting and playing big minutes, and they're absolute superstars, and we had some injuries and different things, and we were still finished one game out of the top 6, but considered a massive success considering the different things. But it's our one sort of season where we weren't in finals, but not even in finals, at the top of the ladder.
Yeah.
So not having the chance to build on last year and all that sort of stuff was disappointing. But you guys know at this level it is what it is.
I've been fired.
Yeah.
And until you've been fired, you really aren't coaching.
Yeah, true. A lot of people have told me that.
I got to share with our listeners, I reached out to you in the hope that you'd apply for the Caps.
Yeah.
And there must have been a little bit of thought about that. But then I can see you're so busy now in the journalist world that...
Why didn't you commit?
Why didn't you put your
I
hand
did
up?
actually initially apply.
Okay.
And then I pulled out. I'm a all-in type of guy, as a lot of people, if you asked about me, would probably tell you. And I just felt, I don't know where I felt I wasn't ready to jump back into it, because I'm a pretty emotional type of guy. Mm-hmm. And first time...
And you've got a bit of change this year.
For sure.
I get it.
So I didn't react to that situation ending probably the way I should have.
Sure, we're
we're emotional beings, but
if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
so I'm 30, just turned 33.
Yeah, so you got, mate, get your backyard, what you're doing right now, like that pays your mortgage and pays your bills.
True.
And because it takes a lot of time, and that's what we were talking about before, the investment that if you really know how to coach, you put a lot of time into it.
I mean, were you big on the film? Because like when we did the QSL, we won that the same year that you won what were we called that?
QSL 1, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was the same year we won NBL 1 North.
Yes.
2021? Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
I didn't look at main video ever. We had our rules. It didn't matter who we're playing until we got to the semifinals.
Yeah.
And make sure we know what they're out of bounds, take something away from their out of bounds play. How do they zone? We just a little thing. How do they run? The assistant, no, what we call it, semifinals, they had a step up screen. We had to put a rule in for that. But we didn't change our rules for who our opponents were.
Because you don't get enough time.
No, not at all.
We can talk about Pac D, which the first time I ever played Pac defense is with you, and a few years ago. Always been pushed baseline. That's how. But I think you need time, and you need athletes that have played push to the baseline, and they've been taught how to close out correctly, and they've got an IQ to be able to switch. And you're now starting to talk college and pros and. Even these days, you'll talk about the NBL and above, push to their weak hand. You think about that. If I'm pushing you to your weak hand, so I've got to know the scout on you, but then all my mates behind me have got to know that I'm actually pushing you to the left hand. It's a lot to take on board.
Yeah,
and you need to be training more than once a week to pick up that.
Are you big video? Did you do a lot of videos?
Not a huge. For me individually, I am, because I don't feel mentally confident if I don't overload myself. But with the team, not really. For most of my years, we do, 10 minutes after Thursday training, looking forward to the weekend, and then I'd have some individual clips that I just send people.
Yeah.
Last year that changed.
Did you cut it yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Last year that changed a little bit because we had a young team. I still did the team stuff, but I'd catch up on a Zoom call with most of our players during the week where I can share my screen and go through stuff just because we had that young group, but not an overload. But for me individually, because I feel like there's sort of feeling when you go into a game and you feel underprepared if you don't, sort of do everything. So, yeah.
Can we get back into NBL 1 with Brayden?
Yeah.
How do you see how the NBL 1 has evolved in the last few years, and what do you see of its future?
It's a bit hard this year, and not being biased because I'm not in the league, but it's gone down a bit this year with the changes with both. Who do we have out this year? Darwin leaving and North Gold Coast, and only 14 games. Most of the
one out at Cleveland's out.
Yeah, and
Red City and Roar.
Rip City were out
to
before that.
Back.
Yeah, so all a lot of the top talent we previously had has gone elsewhere because you're getting paid for 22 games or 24 games rather than 14.
And that's what people don't realise. I mean, the players say, I got whatever I got to play. Last year, I want the same, at least or more, but hang on, there's less income coming in for the association.
100%. Yeah.
So that's tough.
Yeah, but it's still like a great pathway. I think, when clubs do it right, I think it can be really impactful. I get the shit sometimes looking at some of the programs, and, a lot of clubs will recruit basically almost their whole team.
Yeah.
Which I don't agree with. I don't agree with the thing that you can't develop and win. We were able to do it for so long when you have a core and then you have young people around it that you can have veterans that they can learn from and everything like that. And then you see some clubs that recruit their whole team and they still suck. And I'm just thinking, what's the point of your program? So
that's a really good point.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's not sustainable that everybody wants to win, right? But you can't keep it goes up every year.
For sure.
You know, and I had this discussion with Hamish Kane. You know, we can't keep doing this. If let's say the Brisbane Capitals turn over $3 million, you know, after expenses. I'm just guessing now. I'm not. Don't anybody come back. And you're spending 10% of that on one team.
Yep.
I think you still got to put the members. I mean, if you can run a tight ship and run a good event, and have some local sponsors and yeah, obviously it's a great thing for an association to have players, male and female, look up to. So I think it's great. But I think I'm 100% with you. It should be seen as a development. You can definitely bring in one or two, you know, imports or whatever you want to call them, you know, outside players outside the association. But it should be definitely development.
I'm with you, Brayden, in that it should be.
Yeah.
But NBL is about entertainment, right? And it does kind of surprise me, particularly about Roman Supiella.
Yeah.
Did I pronounce that correctly? See, I was close. There's a few of the same consonants, but the vowels were Sia.
That'd be fun. Commentating him and Sikorsky.
Yeah.
Or how about Manga Kahia?
Oh, you said that
rolls
well.
right off the tongue. But how isn't Roman in with the Bullets?
Yeah, well, I think they're trying to make it work now. Obviously, he signed with Tassie last year, and then that didn't work out, and they sort of parted ways. And you know, Cairns wanted to get him as well last year, and then I think it was their decision. Funnily enough, maybe a coach's decision, and I think the Bullets are trying to get him now. Now it's just whether. I think he's still got eligibility possibility with the NIL stuff that he could go to college.
Okay.
But I think they're doing everything they can to try and get him at the Bullets as a next star.
Standout.
Yeah.
Athlete, I mean, world-class athlete.
Yeah.
I just look at you don't let that go.
Yeah.
Because we've let a lot of our kids go, you know, like Bubbles.
Yeah.
You know, that's a huge one.
Queensland players playing elsewhere, you know, Sam Froling.
All over the place.
That's all good. That's cool because it's entertainment. NBL 1's development.
Yep.
You mentioned to me before we started recording a great idea about NBL 1 because, you know, at the end of the year they had this tournament.
The national championships.
And none of the NBL players play.
Yep.
You want to share that?
Can I share it with you, Brayden?
Sure.
So we went through it. The North, there's 5 conferences of NBL 1. There are a total of 71 teams.
Yep.
If we made a 12-man roster from each of the conferences, a select, no NBL players,
So
no import players.
No one in the top 12, so it doesn't affect any NBL at all. So instead of this stupid tournament that they played it's just not worth watching because it's not the real thing.
And if you played, so there's 5 teams, you play a round robin over 2 weekends. Because you play 4 games.
Yep.
And you
No
just take
imports.
win, loss, and points, for and against,
I like
to
it.
determine a winner. And, you know, because after our NBL 1 national tournament, I heard that from the South it's not on.
Yeah.
I've heard from BQ that it is. So I don't know if the fact is that because we had the COVID interruption, then last year I don't think Mackay won it and they didn't go. Or was it
The girls, the Rocky team won it and didn't go. Mackay went, but they were undermanned.
Yeah, White didn't play. Isaac didn't play at all. He was just sitting on the bench. But our point is here, this, you know, again, we are not understanding the funding of all of this, but I'm assuming BQ makes some money out of LBL 1, so they could fund this team from the NBL 1, male and female, to this tournament. Mm-hmm. I think it'd be high quality.
For sure.
And no
it'll
imports.
attract gamblers.
So it's only Aussies. Aussies, Kiwis, you know? You'd have to tighten that strap around availability, but we don't want it to be some American who's just just come out here.
They can select their team. The only thing you can't are NBL players
Or an American, or an
or imports.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that might be something that, you know, we can hand the reins over to you, Brayden, and you run with it. We need journalists to drive.
I just think they'd get TV for that.
For sure. It'd be a lot of interest.
Yeah,
Certainly
absolutely.
get gambling.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
And
when you
I thought
look
it was
at
a great idea.
71
We wanted to
bloody
bounce it
teams,
off you.
I like it. I'll actually take that and I'm going to do a story
run
on
with it.
I like it.
Okay, just say that. Hey,
Just quietly
But
filthy.
if you actually manage to pull it off, which I think you can, Brad, can you make sure that there's like a little, like, you know, Statler and Waldorf in the Muppets used to
Yeah.
sit up high? Can you make sure there's a seat for
Well,
Bruce and I?
they'll be playing for the McLeod Palmer Trophy. Oh,
well, there you
or the,
go.
or the Palmer
I
McLeod
like
Trophy.
it that
You
he
guys
said
have to.
McLeod first.
You'll have to work
It
it out.
will M before P.
Filthy that they didn't have the 2021 national champs though, because
We would have gone
won
there
it.
and you would have mopped the floor with them.
Yeah, we would have had our full team too.
I like this idea, and it gives us some little another twist. It was really all based on this B-League Global Invitational thing. Well, wow, why don't we do that in just, doesn't be global, it can be Australia.
I reckon we'll have a story out on basketball.com.au before this episode comes out
All right.
about that idea.
I
Or
like
do you want me to wait?
No.
No, take it.
Brayden, take it and run with it.
We'll do it.
So I had-
You've spoken to us. You know, we had a beer. You know, you
Well,
go
I was
with it.
thinking that, you go to, so you brought, well, where would it be played? Well, you haven't bid for it.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to host this thing. You have, okay, we need at least 2,000 seats. Be nice for more.
Yeah.
But what does that bring if we're bringing in one weekend a couple of hundred people into your community to eat, drink, and be merry?
for sure.
And sponsors, and then New South Wales, Queensland Basketball, whatever the funds are, they split it at the
Yeah.
end if there's money to be made, or they wear the cost, but they're all getting money from them. That tournament that they had at the Sunny Coast last year, Sunny Coast would have lost on that.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't great.
It was not good.
Did you go?
No, I just
you
watched
watch
a
it
bit
on
I
KO?
watched a bit on TV and stuff. You know what we've really enjoyed, and again, we started this podcast without a whole lot of
Research?
correct, but we've been doing quite a lot with the women's side of it, and we have really thoroughly enjoyed the ladies that we've had on this program. You're involved in a lot of coaching women. With Sandy, we talked about the Opals culture and all that sort of stuff. And I know, and I read in your profile that you're big on that, and you've
Yeah.
done a lot of. What are your thoughts about the women's basketball and where it's heading?
Yeah, well, it's going forward in leaps and bounds now. I think, despite the reactions of some people, even though we're in Australia, I think you can thank Caitlin Clark for a lot of it. The recent boom in women's basketball and everything. And it's good to see other people building off the back of it. Now we've got, the new ownership of the WNBL,
Yes.
which is fantastic to see. It's, it was disappointing to see that some of the clubs didn't sign for a while and delayed it. And I was like, well,
This is going to fall over.
regardless of what the the new ownership group is doing, it can't be any worse than what Basketball Australia were doing with it before. So, so I'm glad to see
Hey,
that.
that's a good man. A little snappy inside there. I like.
I wouldn't call it. That's just a fact.
Yeah, 100%. Just quick story. I always reference this when I say how bad the management of the WNBL has been. I think a couple of years ago it was Perth Lynx and Melbourne Boomers in the grand final series.
Yeah.
And there was no social media post in the lead up to game one, which in itself is pretty bad. There was an uproar about it. The first social media post in the lead up to game two, what do you reckon it was? For
Bagging.
women's basketball. It was the two male coaches going head to head. Now, I don't think if I've seen a more tone-deaf thing in my life
Yes.
than that. So, it's great to see the new CBA with the WNBL. I think, the rise over the next 4 years in salaries and different things available to women's players is huge. So I think it's going forward in leaps and bounds. I think the biggest thing you wake up to when you're involved in women's basketball is some of the things that, these women go through. Like, there's players, there's women, and I'll just use Michaela Cann as an example. In my opinion, one of the best point guards in the country.
Yeah.
And I won't name the teams, but when I was at the WNBL hub back in 2020, I was talking to teams about it. You should look at her for next season, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. And a lot of people said, oh, but she's got kids. And I was just like, oh, so we're okay with being a women's league, just as long as women don't do what women do. So it's changed a bit since then. Thank God.
Well, the WNBA is helping with that because there's a lot of kids involved in
sure.
that now.
Yeah.
And you see
Yeah.
them, it's actively involved in their socials and they're
Yeah.
running on the court after games.
Which is the way it should be.
Absolutely.
So I think the WNBL is building off the back of that now and doing a lot of things, so which is great to see. But I think, like I said, being involved in it, you just see the different sort of things they go through compared to being involved with men's basketball, and so it's good to see that it's starting to get the profile it deserves.
What's your opinion about a WNBL team in Brisbane?
Yeah, well, all reports, and we broke the story earlier this year that it's going to happen next season, so 26-27, and it's needed, I think.
But who's funding that?
The Bullets. So the Bullets, Mao said one of the things when he came on board, part of the ownership group, was that they wanted a WNBL team, and it's going to be funded and everything by them. Now, they might have a different operations group to be part of, to sort of solely own the WNBL team and stuff like that. But from all reports, they're going to be in. Tasmania's going to be in as well. But Southeast Queensland needs it now. And I'm not talking about these phony, regional ones like we had Logan, who were there for a while and did okay.
It needs to be Brisbane.
And then Southeast Queensland Stars, which I won't mention the person involved in that I don't have a great history with. Like, that was a schmozzle.
Come on.
Hammer.
The fuck. His name doesn't get mentioned on this for that reason.
Yeah.
It elicits profanity.
And then I think the person that was funding it had previously been involved with our Seabull program at Spartans, and if anyone did their research, knew that was going to fall over from the very start. So it's going to be based in Brisbane, which is great to see. And I think you see the talent, the local talent in the NBL 1 North, not the WNBL players that come in, but the local talent. There's so many players who, because of their family situation or job situation, won't play for an interstate team, but they'll be able to play WNBL if there's a Brisbane team. So
I want to go back, and I hope that happens. Our women's basketball deserves it, but coaches, when they come and they apply, and that's what I had to do for 2 years, and let's look through the applications. I can bring these players, right? I'd rather, what do we have?
Yeah.
Right? Have you seen our QSL group? They went undefeated.
Yeah.
I was disappointed that Mark Harvey wasn't named our coach because let's don't go where we're going to go buy talent and bring him in, because the biggest problem we had was rent.
Yeah.
Right? We don't own a unit, a house, or anything that
they got to live somewhere.
$800 a week, $1,000 a week in rent. And, I'm a big believer. It's got to be. I'm with you, Braydon and Steve. It's a development league.
Yeah.
Let's develop our kids
with a couple of studs. Go for it.
Well,
yeah,
a couple of studs maybe, but I don't like. Fuck, I can bring these players. These players like me. Mate, they're not coming because they like it. They're going to come for the money.
Yeah.
And this is where it becomes unsustainable. That we had a player, a male player, his agent, I'd always ask him, so what does he want from being a capital? And the agent's only thinking money.
Yeah.
He wants 30 grand. He wants to live on the Gold Coast. He needs a car. I go, well, there's two teams on the Gold Coast.
Go down the coast.
And fringe NBL players, so he wants a holiday. Is that what you're saying?
100%.
Yeah, no, I would never ask a guy, mate, no. I want to know, does he want to become a better perimeter skilled player? Does he could improve his D? Does he, no question about our strength conditioning? Who's in charge of that? What facilities do we have to practice? Is it available, every day? Well, you're not going to worry about that if you're living on the Gold Coast. So, bringing players into it, I'm not interested. I'm interested in what we have, how are you going to get the best out of that talent? Because I think they went down. Cassie, apparently she's a very good coach. Brought in that kid, Goodchild. She's now got a different, God, she can play.
Yeah, she can.
Yep.
What's her name
Mila
now?
Soa.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I was sitting with her husband
during
in that game.
Day, didn't she? Or something.
She had 49.
49 of their, 82 points?
82, yeah.
It's she
but
can
I remember
play.
her before she went away, and she was like an athlete before she went to
played
college.
early juniors at Spartans and then played the rest of her juniors at Logan.
Right.
Yeah, it was part of a pretty good career.
She's the real deal.
Yeah.
And Roof, if ever gets healthy,
Yep.
you know, can go around and, you know, I know this, I got a perfunctory glance instead of getting up and shaking hands. So obviously the legend of Palmer preceded me to there, because I let the selectors know I wouldn't go this way. The other thing, though, that really pissed me off is that she wanted Dean Asplin as her assistant. Well, no, because there's friction between our GM and Dean.
Yeah.
Because we did the wrong thing by Dean.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He had a 2-year contract. There was no just cause to let him go.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you know, what you said, mate, when I got fired up here for 2 years, I was bitter.
Yeah.
Blamed everybody on until you stop and is there a mirror? Oh, I'm at fault too.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm the first one that should go.
Yeah.
And now I understand it. So now I kind of get fired virtually everywhere I go. Twice in Japan, once in Korea.
Yeah.
You know, it is what it is. If you choose to become, you know, what's the saying is that, you know, you're going to be a professional coach, you're waiting to get fired.
Yeah, and I think the thing I've probably realised is that it doesn't matter what you do, how much success you have. If people think a certain way, you're done regardless. So, you know, I'm trying to slowly come to terms with that. I'm a very petty person. So I'm trying to get over that sort of thing, which has been the hardest thing.
Man, I remember when this happened to me, can I drop a name? Tom Marr.
Yeah.
So I was assistant with the Opals in '97 before we had the World 22 and Under World Championships.
World champion?
World champion.
Yeah.
But Tommy just says, because he got fired at Hobart, and he said they made a mistake.
Yeah.
You know, we're human. We all make mistakes, and I love that. He goes, Bruce,
Yeah.
they just made a mistake.
Yeah.
I go, well, it's not that big a mistake because I still had 2 years on my contract. I go, it's a pretty big mistake. Read the contract. You
Yeah.
know, like, find a reason to fire me.
Yeah.
But, you know, and again, they were at the time, this is Porky Morgan and Steve Williams and they had that company that was owned by News Corp.
Yeah.
They own the baseball, the basketball. We're gonna have one general manager, and he's gonna be the agent for all the places. That doesn't work.
No.
I mean, if you're gonna be looking after Leroy, are you gonna look after Roger Smith?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's gonna come to a hey, I don't want the same agent. How can you do that? And it didn't work.
Yeah.
And he was going to do the baseball team and everything else. It didn't work.
That was international quarterback, wasn't it? The wanting to be the agent was that was because that was Derek's. They're still around.
Jeffrey Shoecroft.
Shoecroft, yeah.
Right? And he was in the entertainment business.
Yeah.
And either way, I mean, it was but I didn't need to voice my opinion. That's where I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you don't need to share your opinion on everything. And hence, here we are on a podcast sharing our opinions.
Welcome to professional sport. I mean,
Yeah.
you just got to look at other codes. I mean, you coaching the Broncos is not the easiest thing in the world to
not
do.
at all.
You know, like that's the toughest. That's probably the toughest coaching gig in Australia.
Yeah.
Because it's, well, mate, they get well resourced.
Yeah.
They have the most money of all the
For sure.
NRL teams. I heard
By far.
Yeah.
in my research.
But but again, is it the players? You know, what was it? Seabold was too technical, yet he's now coaching at Manly and doing okay.
Kevy too soft.
Too
Matt
soft,
too hard.
and now Maguire's too tough.
Oh, Christ! There's just no winning.
Yeah. I might put my name up over there because I'm just a fucking nice guy.
Oh, well, yeah,
Sorry,
but,
I said trucking.
apparently
I
a lot
said
of
trucking.
these NRL players have issues with your profanity.
So, mate, like we're trying to be also told by people that are helping us with this podcast that we got to keep them nice and snappy. We have had some that have gone quite long, and you're a basketball guy, and it's easy for us to have conversations with you. So we'll tighten it by. But I absolutely, you know, from afar have watched you writing stories, and you know, I see a lot of your content. And I think you do a great job. And I think basketball, you know, I know you pissed off a little bit that you missed out on that gig, like it sounds
Yeah.
like a little bit, which is totally fine. That just makes you hungrier for
sure.
the next opportunity. So I hope you get that, but I think you've got a lot on your plate this year
Yeah.
with the new gig, so I hope it goes really well.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Yeah, all of our listeners, get onto it, basketball.com.au, and we'll keep our ear peeled for the SEN radio stuff. You're doing a great job, a good service for basketball in the media.
Thanks, guys. It's passion, and hopefully we're getting more people interested in the game. And I think the biggest thing is shining the light on some of the characters involved in the game too. I think that's the biggest thing. So, yeah.
Give me a handful of knuckles. Thank you, Braydon. You're a big
Mate,
man.
appreciate it, fellas.